fight each other without the benefit of weapons. And what it really shows
Ah, esto que siempre, culiao.
as a species, how inadequately adapted we are for combat without weapons. You know, we really are adapted to fighting with weapons. You know, we don't have claws, we have fangs, we're not
No, pero ella cae.
bipedal, so we have these big heads that
Ella
are
cae porque
vulnerable.
ya.
So it's really kind of fascinating to see how human fight is really so different from the way animals fight.
No.
You know, going to see a mixed martial arts fight really can, at least for me, as someone who's thinking about it in an evolutionary and anthropological perspective, just how much weapons have changed the nature of human life. If there's any one physical activity that humans evolved to do, it's that. We are the walking champions, you know, among the world. I mean, we're just, you know, walking is the most fundamental, basic form of human physical activity. We know from studies of hunter-gatherers in tropical environments, you know, this is not just one group of people, but people from different parts of the world, that women on average walk about 9 kilometers or 5 miles a day, and men walk on average about 14, 15 kilometers a day, about 9 to 10 miles, every single day, right? They do it 7 days a week, there are no holidays, there's no weekends, there's no retirement. Walking is the way in which humans get around, get food, you know, it's kind of fundamental to who we are as a species, and we often carry when we walk. And today, in the modern to the Western world, with cars and escalators and elevators and you know, Zoom and you know, TV and all that sort of stuff, we just don't walk very much. So especially during this pandemic, people have been walking, you know, step counts have plummeted around the world from already pretty low levels. So the average sort of hunter gathering of like maybe, you know, 10, 15,000 steps a day. The average American before the pandemic was taking something like 4,700 something steps a day. So a lot less than our ancestors. And you know, my step counter for, you know, when I'm not running, you know, right, I just not running. I mean, my steps have decreased by about 50% during this pandemic, during COVID. And because, you know, I'm not going anywhere. Now I'm trudging to the bathroom, and occasionally, you know, going on a little errand here or there, and I walk the dog around the block. But that's about it. And one of the misconceptions that is sort of a debate, but people often sort of discount how important walking is because people think that walking really isn't very good for weight control and weight loss. And I would disagree with that. I think it's sure that if you walk only, you know, a few miles a day, you're not going to lose very much weight very fast. You don't spend that much energy walking. So if you want to lose weight, you're not even, you know, bacon or cheese or, you know, other things that are really sugary. You're going to lose a lot more calories than if you walk for a few miles. But walking is important because even if you do a fair amount, you still will actually lose some weight. You just lose a small amount and you lose it slowly. So that's still good. But more importantly, walking turns out to be an important way for keeping metabolism going, to prevent weight gain. And there's a lot of studies which show that physical activity, you know, it's not the best way to lose weight, but it is an important component of preventing people from gaining weight or regaining weight after a diet. So people go on a diet and they lose weight, and then they stop the diet, they often regain the weight. It's very common. But people go on a diet, lose weight, and then they stay physically active, they're much more likely to keep that weight off.
Bask in summer, not traffic. With the Pegasus Shuttle Van. Round trips connect Denver to Lakewood, Idaho Springs, Frisco, Vail, and Avon. Scroll or sleep through I-70 traffic with Wi-Fi and comfort each way. Find tickets at ridebustang.com.
Again, one of the ways in which we medicalize exercise in the Western world, we think there's a certain amount you should do. Right? We prescribe it, you know? You should take 2 aspirin, you should get 8 hours of sleep, you should walk 10,000 steps a day. We like that, right? And there's nothing necessarily wrong with the goal, right? Goals can be really helpful, actually. But 10,000 steps is kind of arbitrary, right? The number actually came from when the first pedometer was invented in Japan before the 1960s Olympics. They were, you know, in boardroom, they decided to call it. Turns out that 10,000 is a very auspicious number in Japan. And they thought it sounded good, it's kind of reasonable, so they called it, you know, 10,000 steps monitor. And that kind of stuck. And surprisingly, it turns out that 10,000 steps isn't actually a bad goal, right? It's if you actually look at what, you know, a lot of people in non-Western societies do, 10,000 steps isn't actually that far off. So it's a perfectly reasonable goal to shoot for. But there's nothing like special about it. If you do 8,000 steps, that's fine. If you do 15,000 steps, that's fine. The important thing is to be physically active, because some is better than none, and a little bit more tends to be better than that. But it's all good. There's no magical number. It's not a U-shaped curve, a bottom on it, right? Where that tells you what it is that does not exist. I'm especially interested in running. It's actually one of my major areas of research, and I'm interested in how humans evolved to run long distances and what role running plays in our lives and in our evolution. And look, running is the most fundamental form of vigorous perspective. Walking is the most fundamental form of moderate activity. Running is what we do to be vigorous, right? Because they didn't know electric and other kinds of machines back in the Stone Age. You wanted to get heart rate up, you were running, right? And people ran long distances in order to hunt or scavenge. But running today is very popular. A lot of sports use running. A typical soccer player will run 5-6 miles in a game. So running is a lot of ways that people run. But people kind of exercise about running too. And one of the biggest myths about running is that it'll destroy your knees. And like all myths, this is a bit complicated, because it is true that the most common injuries that runners experience are knee injuries. But there's kind of two kinds of knee injuries. Some knee injuries are caused by your muscles being out of whack, and you kind of pull a ligament, or you pull a tendon or something like that, or your IT band, etc. But those are injuries that you can recover from. And the other kind of injury are wear and tear injuries that you can't recover from. The worst being osteoarthritis. And the idea that running too much wears out your joints is just wrong. It's just fundamentally completely wrong. It's like, if you think about your joints like your shock absorber in your car, it's just nonsense. There's tons and tons of studies. More than a dozen randomized, controlled, prospective, gold standard studies that show that people who run more are not more likely to get arthritis. In fact, lots of research shows, research from my lab is among them, that physical activities like running actually cause your joints to repair themselves, to stay healthy. There are other kinds of running, so you're not going to destroy your knees by running, at least in terms of arthritis. But if you have arthritis and you run, it can be excruciating. You can exacerbate it. The other kinds of running, I think that a lot of them are caused because people don't know how to run properly. I think running is a skill, right? Like swimming or throwing, or all kinds of other things that we do. And we don't learn the skill that much of running anymore in the rest of the countries I work with, when you ask people about running, they believe that it's a skill, and that there's like the right way to run and the wrong way to run. And how do they learn the right way to run? Well, they imitate people who are really good. They'll actually follow them. Opinion, a good runner will run in the front, and then people will run behind them a little and imitate the way they run. They'll move their arms and legs, etc. They'll imitate them to try to learn that person's skill. Just as we do that for we watch, Andre Agassi hit a backhand, and we'll try to hit the backhand